On 9 January 2022, the Office of the Attorney General in Malawi released a statement. In the statement, it announced, among other things, issuing of a 60-day amnesty to individuals and companies that defrauded or helped defraud government. In the exclusive interview today, I'm engaging Joab Chakhaza Nyirenda, the Attorney General of Malawi, to learn more about this. Stay with us. Malawians have been watching with keen interest on the issue involving the businessman Zuneth Satar, and they're waiting anxiously to see how it's going to pan out. The Britain's anti-corruption authorities, alongside Malawi's anti-corruption authorities, in October 2021 arrested Mr. Satar, alongside other associates in the UK and Malawi. The arrests are following a 3-year-long investigation by the National Crimes Agency of Britain into Mr. Satar's suspected corrupt dealings with Malawi government. And most Malawians believe that senior government officials, senior politicians, businessmen have been working with Mr. Satar to defraud government, and they want to see justice duly served. In Malawi, Satar has assumed a lot of money, and he is a major supplier to Malawi government. He supplies to the military, to the police, immigration department, prison services, and many others, and he runs a fleet of companies. Now, your office released a statement where they were saying you are issuing an amnesty to people who might have defrauded government to come forward and pay back the money that they stole from government. First, let me understand the reasons your office came up with the decision to come up with this amnesty. What were the reasons?
Before I approach that question, I think I should say that those that are against the Malawians of goodwill, they wish well for the country.
Those who are against
the amnesty.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, of course, we know that there is also freedom of expression under the Constitution, but they are doing this in goodwill, and I think we need to also applaud those that are coming up in arms against that decision. That's in the first place. Okay. Then I think also, before I also attempt that question, that issue, I should also mention that I've been saying that in Malawi, these people that come here, they say they are investors. They're not investors. They are just traders, and they just want to milk the country. Yeah, and these are people that are coming from outside the country. So who's this investor? They say, I'm an investor. Protect me. When what you want is just to do business with government and milk government of money. And then the other thing that we also mentioned is that there's this monopoly. There's the business, and our assessment is that 50% of the annual budget goes to this fraudulent procurement and corruption. Yeah, and then I think let's go to the background why we said amnesty. It's just a matter of semantics, but I think maybe we also look at the results, because these things, I said that they have happened before, but they exist in several names, nomenclature, and etc. So we also looked at these investigations. They're saying 3 years, but there are issues that are to do with transactions that occurred 11 years ago. But when you go back, this started in 2003, meaning there could be hundreds, if not thousands, of people that will be involved in this matter. Yeah, and then at the same time, you also look at a situation where we have got cases before. I started a case, Friday Jumbe and Philip Bonari. The Friday Jumbe was Minister of Finance, Philip Bonari was Deputy Minister of Finance. They're answering a corruption charge stemming from the zero tolerance on corruption that Bingo and Talika declared. And that case in 2004. This is 2022, so almost 18 years, 17 years now. Now, the person that was not born at that time is now eligible to vote. That person is now eligible to get married without parental consent. That person that was born at that time is now eligible to stand for political office. Yeah? And now has finished his university education.
Yes, of course,
yes. 17 years. But people say, no, that's an outlier, because that's one case. We have got 77 files that are lying. Actually, that decision started working with the DBP before this SATA issue came in. The DBP came to my office. AG, I've got these files, and plus others. So let's find a solution, how to dispose of these ones. Then I said, okay, we're going to write demand letters to all these people to come and pay, and following which we're going to proceed, and with interest. And then if they invested, that investment will have to take it, so that we don't want people to benefit from that. Then the other thing is that there are people that would also use that procurement fraud and corruption as a risk of doing business if they are arrested. So we have seen people, I will not mention names, people were arrested. When they were in prison, they were like living in a hotel. When they were in prison, they came back from prison, they're buying mansions. You're not working, you're putting out mansions, expensive vehicles, and that. So what I was saying is that perhaps, because there are so many tools that are used to fight this corruption, one way is vengeance. Yeah? So, okay, maybe I would also say that criminal law, in terms of what it achieves those who studied criminal law will say, okay, deterrence. Those that commit crimes will be deterred if we do pursue criminal law. And reformation, people be reformed. Retribution, I mentioned. And then there's the compensation and there's restitution. Yeah. So we're also pursuing the angle of restitution. So how do we go about it? And then another factor is the fact that when you talk about corruption, there are 4 of us here, assuming we conspire to engage in corruption. Yeah? So we conspire to engage in corruption, we have done some corrupt deals and like. Nobody will know unless somebody else will say, I'm omnipresent. Investigators are not omnipresent, they are not omniscient. Yeah? The investigators, they would need evidence, to actually catch us if we're involved in corruption. Yeah? So unless from us, one person comes forward and say, we got involved in corruption and then this is 30 billion kwacha that was exchanged, that thing actually will remain a secret forever for generations to come. Yeah? And so if that's the thing, that if somebody were to come forward, if you were to come forward, Mr. Chakhaza, you cannot just come forward without a quid pro quo. There has to be a favor for you to come forward. Yeah? So that favor is that we are supposed to maybe perhaps I think you will not prosecute you, but use you as a witness against the other 4.
Okay.
Now the other thing is, I told you I've come from the village, grown up in the village, seen the poverty. Yeah. So what normally happens is that in the village, people like essential services that government is supposed to provide. So want money to get into the economy to provide those services to the rural masses, even the urban dwellers.
All right.
Don't cut me short.
Okay.
So now the thing is that I also mentioned that I need in the first quarter to recover as much as 50 billion kwacha. So one of the tools that I wanted to use was this one. But when we're doing this, we're not saying those that will have overwhelming evidence, the ones that are the principal offenders. We want those people that we don't even know, we cannot even catch, but maybe they're afraid they will be caught one day. But at the moment they are not caught. So if they come forward, then we also say, okay, let's give them this amnesty. But the thing is that they are also using the term amnesty loosely, or using it loosely. And then, of course, if you want the actual term, you also need also to look at what treaties that we signed provide. So the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, then the United Nations Convention Against Organized Crime, Drugs and Organized Crime, and so many instruments. So if you read articles and those instruments, they also indicate that one of the means of fighting corruption is through these amnesties, because corruption is usually done in secret.
All right.
So what we want to do is that collect as much money as possible.
Okay.
And that money goes to the economy,
Yeah.
help people. And then, of course, I think I made us say, okay, this 7 case that has taken 17 years. So if one case takes 17 years, then what that means is that 10 cases, we are saying it's an outlier, 10 cases will take 170 years, 100 cases take 1,700 years, and so the reason is actually we're saying that is in the best interest of Malawians. Okay. And for God's sake, we're saying those that will genuinely come forward with the evidence, with the remorse, with money, and then also help us to pin others. And then
that is understood. I want us to move on to some of the issues that you have brought up in your explanation. Let me start by citing to you what some people have been saying about that decision, starting with the Malawi Law Society President Patrick Mpaka, who told the Daily Times on Monday, 10 January, that you have failed to identify any legal basis, both in the statement that you issued on 9 January, which I'll get to later, and the press briefing that was held on 10 January in Lilongwe. And the Malawi Law Society warns that this path that you are taking is a risky path to take, no matter how good the intentions. Professor H. Kanyongolo has also said there is no law that authorizes you or any branch of government to grant general amnesty for criminal offenses. How do you respond to that? Is there any legal basis for granting this amnesty?
I said, I think the issue is a matter of semantics. Even during the press briefing, I mentioned that I've prosecuted cases, I've also defended cases. And I think maybe before I go further, what I also mentioned is that there will be situations where I've stolen your phone. That's an example that I gave. That's worth 500,000 kwacha. You don't know when that phone is going to be recovered, whether you win the case against me or not. And then I come forward and say, you are a complainant to court, before court. And then I say, okay, I'll look for 500,000 kwacha, pay you. Or let's go and fight. Which one would you choose? Would you choose me go to court fight for 2, 3, 4 years, even 6 months? Or you choose the 500,000 kwacha? Would you choose vengeance of compensation? So that's a balance between vengeance and compensation. But what we're saying is you don't want impunity. Yeah? Now, in terms of, I think, directly coming to the question, because there we had mentioned about the law that governs criminal trials in the country. The law that governs criminal trials in the country mentions of stages at which a case can be discontinued. So where a case is discontinued, the DPP is supposed to give reasons to Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament why a case has been discontinued. Now, if you are accused of corruption, there will be reason why a case will be discontinued. So the reason why this case is going to be discontinued is maybe perhaps because you have cooperated, and in that cooperation, you have led to recoveries, so many things and the like, you know. But in effect, when a case has been discontinued, what is the effect of that to you, if you're an accused person? What is the effect? Because if the case is discontinued, you are no longer going to stand trial. Yeah? So that is within the law. And then although the law also mentions of situations where you want to...
The situation you are presenting is a situation where the case has already commenced, right? And it's discontinued.
Yeah.
But you're granting amnesty to people whose cases have not yet started. So that's a bit different, isn't it?
It's not different, because I think there's a process. Because the process will not end at... oh yeah, we just an announcement of ended. Because there's a process. Actually, we explain the procedures. And then I also mentioned, because if in terms of your understanding what you talk of this forgiveness is all about, yeah, you go home and sin no more. And you think twice. So what you are saying is this is how this process is going to take place. And then I think I also need to illustrate another example. Therefore, in terms of the law in Malawi, you cannot embark on a prosecution relying on confession statements of co-accused persons. Yeah? But you can use that evidence of a co-accused if you satisfy certain criteria. The first criteria is that you exclude that person from the indictment, from the charge sheet. Meaning that if you have excluded, You have not even taken that person to court. Yeah. Second is that you have commenced a case against that person, and then you have offered no evidence against that person, and that person is acquitted. And third is where the DPP enters a discontinuous. Yeah. Now, the effect of that is that that person is not going to be prosecuted. When that person is not going to be prosecuted, what is the effect of that if you're talking about amnesty? That's why I said, when we go to school to study, yeah, we go to school, I think earlier, we go to school to acquire knowledge, to use that knowledge. And perhaps what you're telling me is fast. What is the synonym for fast? Answer me, what's the synonym for fast? Quick? Will it be quick? Yeah. So if maybe the way that is used is quick, but because you have memorized, then what you want me to do is, when I've used the word quick, I've used the word fast, then I'm wrong. You know? But looking at this thing is that, look at the result. When we're saying this person, we have offered no evidence against that person, it's under the law. They should check the law. Check the law. When we have entered a discontinuous against that person, what are you going to, what is the effect of that to that person? Yeah.
I just want, I'm following what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling to get straightforward answers from you, and that's why I may be interrupting you.
The straightforward was that...
Can you assure me that there's a legal basis for granting amnesty to criminals who have defrauded government? Is there any legal backing in the decision that you took?
Yes.
There is?
There is.
Now...
So the legal backing that I said there is if the answers are found in the criminal procedure and evidence court, in terms of how criminal processes operate, how you withdraw a complaint, how you use evidence by a co-accused person, an accomplice.
All right.
And so this is the legal process. But these are the tools that you use. So you don't have to be in a cocoon and fail to think outside the box. You have got a problem that you want to solve. So how do you solve that problem? Use those existing tools.
The three offices of Director of Public Prosecutions, your office as Attorney General, the Anti-Corruption Bureau, and we can also add the Financial Intelligence Authority.
Yeah.
They should work diligently together to fight against corruption if this fight is going to bear any fruits. Would you agree with that?
But then I should also add the other offices that are omitted.
I know, but I can't have a complete list.
Yeah, so I've
picked those.
Yeah, I've added there's Malawi Revenue Authority, there's the Reserve Bank of Malawi, there's
Would
Malawi
those three or four that I mentioned be in that group?
Yes.
Yes, they would. Now, I wanted to understand how the decision to grant this amnesty was arrived at. The Anti-Corruption Bureau is a key stakeholder in fighting corruption in Malawi. And this decision might, in one way or another, affect their operations in trying to bust crime and corruption and graft in the country. Did you consult the Anti-Corruption Bureau in arriving at this decision?
What I would say is that maybe to answer that question, you should need to understand how my office operates. My office, the name that we hear is the office is the principal legal advisor to government. And then when you go to where these offices are created, the Director of Public Prosecutions, you find that my office, the Director of Public Prosecutions works under the supervision and direction of the Attorney General. Yeah, that's the first step. The second is that when you also look at how the office of the ACB operates, the office of the ACB, it operates under the direction and supervision of the Director of Public Prosecutions. I know somebody has located, in Section 42 of the Corrupt Practices Act, this is not found there. But I think what we need to do is that when you're reading statutes, you have to read the statute as a whole. So you need to check a provision which talks about powers of the Anti-Corruption Bureau. And where they are saying powers is subject to, the provision talks about, is that Section 10. So you start from Section 4 up to Section 10. So the provision talks about subject to the supervision and direction of the Anti-Corruption Bureau, of the Director of Public Prosecutions, prosecute offenses under this Act. Yeah? And then, of course, after that, we have got several agreements. So those agreements have other several institutions, including the institution that I mentioned. And the chair of that agreement on law enforcement in terms of financial crime, the one that chairs is the Attorney General. So we have got those statutes that works. So what happens is that when I make a decision, I'll make a decision, pass it to the DPP will pass it to the SCB director, and then we have been working in harmony. I forget about to say, no, we are not working in harmony. So the thing is that this is how these things, that's harmonious relationship.
This is what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
If the three of you are working in harmony,
yeah.
Did you, in that harmony, involve the ACB in making this decision? That's what I want to understand. Forget about who supervises who and who answers to who. But if you're working in harmony, did you, these three institutions, come together and say, this is what we're embarking on and this is what we're going to do? Did that happen?
I think what you also need to understand is that there are specific functions by specific.
This, in my view, is a simple question.
No, it's not.
It's whether the meeting occurred or not, whether the consultation occurred or not.
So
did it occur?
What you should also note is that there are specific functions for specific offices and the specific issues that need to be divulged to the public. So the
consultation was not there?
No, I will not say the consultation was not there. The consultations were there, but
if it was, you would have said yes, it was there. I'm sure about
the form of consultations. What I'm saying is that there are specific roles.
Did the Anti-Corruption Bureau Director know that your office was going to release this statement? Did she know? As the head of that institution.
What I'm talking about is that you should know about specific functions and specific laws and responsibilities.
For me, I'm looking at this as a layman, and this is plain and simple. You may have the legal explanations behind it.
Yeah.
The Anti-Corruption Bureau.
And mind you that because this is a legal office.
The Anti-Corruption Bureau is charged with the responsibility of fighting corruption and graft in this country.
Yeah.
This move might affect its operations in one way or another. If there's a move that will impede its pursuit of the job that it has to do, it would make sense, in my view, to either consult them or at least inform them. Did that happen? That's what I'm trying to find out.
So what you're trying to direct me is that there's a move to impede the...
I'm trying to establish if there was adequate consultation between these three institutions.
So what I would say in short is that there were adequate consultations.
The ACB was consulted?
So what I would say is that there was adequate consultations.
With the ACB?
With everyone involved in that strategy in the fight against financial
including
crime.
The ACB?
What are you talking about? I'm saying there were adequate consultations with everyone.
Yes. What surprises me, Honorable Attorney General, is that when that statement was released, you made reference to social media reports.
Yeah.
You didn't make any reference to what the Anti-Corruption Bureau was saying. You were commenting on social media reports. That's how the statement was crafted.
Yeah.
And that makes me wonder if you didn't know what was happening in the Anti-Corruption Bureau, because I expected that you might have said, we have been communicating or collaborating with the Anti-Corruption Bureau, and this is what is happening. But you referred to social media reports and other media.
Yes,
which to me gives me the impression that you were not consulting with the ACB.
No, I think that impression is wrong.
It's wrong. All right. Let's hold it there. No, let's hold it there. Yeah. When the Anti-Corruption Bureau issued a statement a few hours after your statement, it also said it saw the statement that you released in the social media.
Yeah, that's correct.
So that means they may not have been involved, because if they were, they wouldn't have said we only saw it in the social media.
That impression would be wrong. That impression was also be
what would be the right impression
in both ways. But I said that what we also need to do to understand is that there are specific roles and functions that specific offices are supposed to carry out and discharge. And then, as I said, because there is this specialization, and then of course there will be situations where you have to say, okay, let's do this together, let me do this, and like so. There will be certain issues that will be made independently of each other. So when I was issuing the statement that following these media reports, this is the action that we took, and that doesn't give the impression. I think that should not give the conclusion to say, no, the ACB did not inform me that this was going on. So that's not the, I think if there is that impression should be actually removed.
Let me tell you what worries me as an ordinary Malawian. Watching you holding that press conference on Monday, 10 January 2022, in the presence of the Director of Public Prosecutions, in the absence of the Director of the Anti-Corruption Bureau.
Did you get my answer earlier on to say how the ACB operates? Did you also get my answer there to say the other law enforcement institutions that are also involved?
I got it.
Yeah,
I got it.
Yeah, so you not always have each and every person involved in a press conference, because that press conference was trying to address a specific issue from an issue that came from the Minister of Justice.
So in your view, the ACB didn't need to be there?
No, there was no need.
It didn't need to be there?
It didn't need to be there because we have the head of criminal prosecutions in the country. So we have the head of criminal prosecutions in the country, and then of course they may also be doing other things. So there was no need for the ACB director to be there when we were trying to address a specific issue that came from a specific office that is actually supposed to do specific functions.
During the press briefing on Monday, you seemed to suggest that your office supervises the ACB. Am I right to make this observation?
That my office
supervises the Anti-Corruption Bureau.
So the impression that you got.
That I got, yes. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think I also mentioned that. Did
you mention that?
Under the legal arrangement, my office, I think two things that came out there clearly. So my office supervises the Director of Public Prosecutions.
And the DPP?
And the DPP in turn supervises the Director of Anti-Corruption Bureau.
Which, in your understanding, means you also supervise?
Yes, yes. That's how it works. But you also earlier on asked me to say, no, the ACB was supposed to be there. And so how did that happen? So when you are going to supervise, you also need to know what you're supervising. So you don't supervise something that you don't know. Because if you don't supervise, you also have abdicated from responsibility. We have seen people that are being held civilly liable for failure to supervise. So if you are supervising, you have to actually supervise. That supervision doesn't just exist by name. It exists for a reason. And so the issue of supervision and direction exists in the Constitution. That also exists in the Corrupt Practices Act.
In this regard, what's your interpretation of supervision? Because it worries me when a situation that has arisen does arise, where you people are speaking two totally conflicting statements. You say you're granting amnesty to criminals who defrauded government if they come forward in 60 days, something we'll get to later. The Anti-Corruption Bureau issues a statement where it says, we have learned about this in the social media, and we are going to review
Can you take
this?
that one to say if you are supervising, so what you are directing?
Yes.
So what that means is that if when I'm saying you are directing the DPP, check the Constitution, so you are directing the DPP, who has got powers of all criminal prosecutions. So what that means is that I can tell the ACB, maybe we'll talk the DPP to say, DPP, I think the best way forward of doing this is we do this. And when we say we do this, I also need to supervise those instructions.
Of course.
Yes. So if we're saying that, okay, how do we achieve this goal of the amnesty? So we're saying, okay, you DPP, you have got powers to discontinue a proceeding. Now, we are with this gentleman that has come forward with this information that is useful. Yeah. So let's weigh this information together. So you are directing him to do this step. Yeah. So now, if you're saying the word supervision, the word directing should not be used, how else can these words be used?
I'm not saying it should not be used.
How else can they be used? How would one, if a noun formed from direct is director, a noun form from supervisor. Supervising is supervisor. How else would that supervisor work if that supervisor has no say in what the person, the supervisee, is doing? How would this person direct the person if that person has got no say in what this person that has been directed to do something is doing?
Let me help you see things from where I'm standing.
Yeah.
If you're supervising someone and you're going to make a decision that will affect them, the starting point would be them knowing about that decision. I mean, let's say for a basic example, we've changed the times, the arrival times at the office.
Yeah.
You'd have to make sure that they know. And it can't be that other people know, and the one that is going to be affected by that doesn't know, which seems to be the case that happened in this
I think
particular
that's a misconception. I think maybe those are the internal issues that, in terms of how we communicate decisions, things, and like, so there are modes of communicating.
Okay.
So that was a communication to the public. There are also mode of internal communication in terms of hard decision to do, what to make. But I think I should also take you back to say you have got the word supervise and the word direct. And these don't exist, they don't exist for no reason. They exist for a reason. Yeah? So Parliament use that for a reason, to say there should be supervision and direction. So to say that let's remove these words, supervision and direction, from the statute books, I think we'll be now amending the statute books, which powers we don't have. So what we also need to know is that I supervise the Director of Public Prosecutions. I direct the Director of Public Prosecutions. And the Director of Public Prosecutions, in turn, under Section 10 of the Corrupt Practices Act, in turn, directs and supervises the Anti-Corruption Bureau. So, of course, people will try to say, no, there is a problem between these offices. There is no problem. I think I need to also assure you.
There's no
problem with the
ACB.
ACB. Things work properly, but I think if maybe that interpretation, I think I need also to clear that misinterpretation. We have got a common goal to achieve, apart from, of course, actually those statutes. We have also mentioned that there are also agreements that we have signed. And those agreements cover several law enforcement institutions. But we know that these institutions also are independent in a way that we're saying we supervise and direct, but we also actually at the same time we need to also guard their independence. So that's why I said, even in this statement, you read that statement, nowhere does it say that the ACB is now directed to say, no, don't investigate this case. Don't do this and that. But what we're saying is that, yes, the public should actually be prepared that these are the decisions that have to be taken in the interest of the public. And when I say that these things are happening, even today, maybe there's a court that has come across a case where somebody else has in court been granted amnesty.
The Anti-Corruption Bureau says it is reviewing the amnesty that you have given, according to a statement they released. They are reviewing the amnesty in the context of the investigations it is currently conducting on allegations against Zuneth Satar. It also said the Bureau will update the public on the decision it will take on the amnesty.
Yeah.
Does that worry you?
I think maybe the thing is that I'm not here to discuss the communications by SAB.
Okay.
But if there are these things that we do, we also have to handle them internally, ourselves between SAB and my office.
But they say they will have to take a decision on the amnesty. I mean,
yes, they operate independently. Yes, they are independent.
Okay.
Yes, so when they're also giving an instruction, they will say, okay, I know we don't think this is good. Let's say if we can achieve this through these means. Let's come up with guidelines that I think should be predictable in this particular case.
Let's get to understand the amnesty a bit more. To start with, the statement that you released said you're granting amnesty to all criminals.
I think that maybe could be a misconception.
No, that's what it was. That's what it said. It's not a misconception.
I think maybe also omitting certain words that were used in statement. I think there are words that have been omitted there that under the restitution justice principle and So embedded in that phrase, there are issues that also direct to say, what do we mean by this? And that's why we're saying that in coming up with this decision, because that is a discretion that has to be exercised.
Yes.
So when we are exercising a discretion, a public officer has actually to properly exercise those powers under that discretion. So then there'll be factors that actually, when you go to the public and say, okay, this is the thing that informed us to arrive at this decision, and therefore we are reporting to you, the public, through the Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament.
Let me read out this section to you and tell me if I'm omitting something.
Yeah.
Pursuant to Justice and Restitution Balancing Act,
Yes.
the Attorney General also wishes to announce a 60-day general amnesty to all those who might have defrauded government or illicitly acquired wealth, whether through procurement, fraud, and corruption or otherwise, but willing to restitute or voluntarily surrender the said wealth within 60 days from the date thereof.
Yeah.
I'm reading it right here. You said to all those who might have defrauded government.
Yeah, but you also don't just concentrate to all those. I think the first part was pursuant to justice. What? Read there. So those are the things that are going to inform us.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, what we're saying is to all those, but the qualifier is that the justice.
So the qualifier in this case is pursuant to Justice and Restitution Balancing Act. So that's what that's going to decide.
Yes. So So embedded in that word, say, okay, what are these things that we're talking about? So then, if we're doing that balancing act, then we're saying, is it going to be fine for us to give amnesty to a person that has we have overwhelming evidence against that person? And then also, is this going to be just?
In your press conference, you seemed to suggest that there are some individuals or companies that cannot.
Yes, that is exactly.
Like who?
I think all those companies that belong to SATA. There are so many of them.
Yeah.
And all those companies that belonged to Mr. Karim Batatawala, and all those companies that belong to Mr. Zamir Karim.
Okay.
And we also mentioned about Matpeto wholesalers. There are others that were not mentioned. And then, of course, even those that own those companies. So, Batatawala, for example, has got over 17 companies.
Yeah.
I think we issued a statement where we're saying we're debarring this. From those, actually, we have also found 2 additional companies. So all those companies that are owned by Batatawala. But we're saying that if we do this, and then we say these people are forgiven, and we're not going to do justice, that balancing act that I was saying, that is going to be achieved. So now the issue here is about those that we also mentioned, that the cabinet ministers, the deputy ministers,
I wanted to read an interesting line in the press statement that your office released. Yeah. The amnesty extends to the 77 cashgate files that are currently before the prosecution authorities, the commercial banks that facilitated cashgate, and to the investigations connected to Mr. Zuneth Satar.
Yes.
Is this similar to what you're telling me now? Is this the same thing?
Yes, that's the same thing, but now we're expounding. Because if we had done a press conference.
No, but this sounds like you're saying the amnesty extends to Zuneth Satar and his accomplices.
No.
That's what I'm understanding here.
That's what it means, because we're saying restitution and balancing act. So we are going to also do that balancing. And then what we're saying is that the 77 cases. So also look at, you're coming forward. What is it that you have brought to us? So we'll do a balancing. So what you have brought to us? What is that you're going to pay? What value of information are you going to give us?
General, help me understand this. Yeah. Why did you single out Mr. Zuneth Satar in this press statement as you said the amnesty extends to, and then you mentioned several, including the investigations connected to Mr. Zuneth Satar?
Yes.
And you're just telling me here now that Mr. Satar and the other accomplices may not benefit from this amnesty?
Not may not. Will not.
Will not?
Yes.
That sounds different from what you're saying.
No, it's not different, because actually maybe you are just picking out one word. So what you need to do is...
No, it's a whole sentence, actually.
Yeah,
unless my English is very poor, I think I perfectly understand what you're saying here. You say the amnesty extends to blah, 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 and to the investigations connected to Mr. Zuneth. That's pretty simple and straightforward.
Yes,
anybody would understand that.
It's not... I think the understanding is not what you're saying. Because if we had started saying, no, this that actually would have a 40, 50 page press statement. That's now press statement.
That's why I'm sticking to what you highlighted.
So what we're saying that when we're talking about the cases connected to this, yeah, what we are saying is that we're talking about those that will voluntarily come forward and with information that will also assist in those investigations.
So now, having said that,
yeah,
the names that you mentioned during the press conference on Monday,
yeah,
how did you arrive at those names to say these will not benefit from this amnesty? Because
these are the names that we're saying. We think these are the principal offenders. Because when we do this, we're talking about, is it going to do justice? Because what we have qualified for is justice. Yeah. So is it going to be just for us to?
But they've not been tried yet. We don't know if they are guilty of the offences that they've been arrested for or not.
Yeah, we are aware about that presumption of innocence. We're aware about that.
Yeah, but for now, they are innocent until proven guilty.
But the investigations center on them. So
yeah, but that doesn't mean that they are guilty. They are pretty much like anybody
We're not
else.
saying that they are guilty. The investigation center on them.
Why wouldn't they benefit from amnesty? Why shouldn't they benefit?
We have already explained that actually we don't want to breed a culture of impunity. And what we also want to say is that actually we also want to demonstrate that crime doesn't pay. But where we want to...
But there's no proof that they committed any crime yet. They are being investigated.
They're innocent
until there is a conclusion that they are guilty. That's when we can be sure about this. So this is a presumptuous statement that you're making. That they cannot benefit because, I don't know, because what? How exactly did you arrive at these names?
How exactly? Because these are the center of the investigations. So those that are the center of the investigation, I think it will not make sense.
But there are many people who are...
Then why should we investigate? Why should we even investigate?
There are many people at the center of investigations in corrupt practices. Many people.
Yes.
Apart from Mr. Sattar and the rest of them, there are many people. Why didn't you also say these ones will not benefit from the amnesty?
We are talking about there are many people, the ones that are going, we have mentioned, I think we have grouped, we have classified people that are not going to be beneficiaries. Yeah? So I think will not do justice for us to say we extend this amnesty to people that are the center of the investigations. Without accurate saying that these are innocent,
I'll tell you what would make sense to me.
Yeah.
Either you mention all of them or you don't mention any of them, because by mentioning some of them and leaving out the others makes me wonder why you picked on these ones. So it's either you just give a blanket description of those who may not benefit from the amnesty and those who will benefit from the amnesty, or you don't mention any names at all.
But these were examples, because those that when we're giving examples...
So you just gave these as examples?
Examples. So I just giving them these as examples of people that will not benefit. But I said that if we're saying we are giving those amnesties, when we're saying that we are going to investigate, we better stop investigations.
Okay.
We saying the investigations are going to go on, but those that are willing actually to assist us, they are not actually at the center of the investigation at the moment. We do that balancing act and see that, okay, yeah, let's do it, and then therefore use this information that I've used, and then of course that information is going to go used even against those people, the ones that are being investigated.
Listening to you speaking on Monday and reading this statement makes me believe, and forgive me if I'm wrong, that it's not the same person talking. It sounds like it's somebody else who wrote the press statement, and it's a different Thabo Chakhaza Nyirenda that I saw speaking. Because, look,
let's clear the misconception, because I said we were expounding on the press statement and making clarification.
So you authored that press statement?
That was authored by me, and I also mentioned that nobody influenced that authorship of that statement. It was from my office.
Now,
and actually with a strong conviction that that was being done in the public interest. And then I also mentioned that we also go on consulting the public, because we're also looking at these people that are against the amnesty. There are people that mean well for the country. At the same time, that what I also say is that we also mean well for the country when we are arriving at that decision.
You do. Actually, I was particularly drawn to something that you said much earlier. You said we must always do the right thing no matter what it takes. As a country, we have a duty to ensure that we safeguard public funds from plunder. As a government, everything we do must be done with the people at the center of it because we serve the people. Do you still stand by this?
I stand by that statement.
Good. So, as we are speaking, is the amnesty in effect or it's not?
I think
the statement was released on 9 January 2022.
We said 60 days, and yes. 60 days has not expired.
No, I'm saying, is it in effect or not?
It is.
It started on 9 January.
Yes.
Is that the right understanding?
That's the right understanding.
So if there's somebody who wants to take advantage of the amnesty right now, what should they do? What would they do? Where do they take the money to? Simple question.
I think I mentioned that there is a process. So they will not just go and take the money to ACB or to the Director of Public Prosecutions. We have got those law enforcement institutions. So if the issue is under the purview of ACB or it's under the purview of the police or Malawi Revenue Authority, then they will have to go to that place. So with
you see now why I was asking about consulting and supervision and things like this is exactly what I was driving at.
Yeah.
If the ACB is virtually in the dark about this, which I do believe is, reading from their statement and reading between the lines, what if somebody goes to ACB and says, look, I looted this money in 2012 or whenever, and I want to give it back? What is ACB going to do? Because they don't seem to know anything about this amnesty.
Then they will have to refer it to my office. So
is that an efficient way of doing business? We're talking about huge amounts of money. You talk about 50 billion.
Because the thing is that I think we're talking about the modus operandi. We are going to issue some guidelines to say
when are we going to issue?
And then of course actually
when are you going to do that?
There are also some guidelines that are also being followed.
You said you are going to. When are you going to do that?
As soon as possible.
Now, as soon as possible, but the 60 days has started, right?
Yes. Then we are going to use those existing.
Don't you think you needed to have had those guidelines before you made the announcement?
Yes, no, because what will happen is that I've also mentioned that this has been in use before through other mechanisms and drugs, so it has been happening before. So, and those existing framework are going to be used as we are now trying to refine those guidelines.
Why do I feel like this was rushed?
No,
it was not rushed.
It was not
you
rushed.
don't have the guidelines. You go ahead and announce an amnesty, and you say it starts immediately, and then you say you will issue the guidelines as soon as possible. We are day something into the amnesty, and you are yet to issue those guidelines. You issue them as soon as possible, and yet you already effected the amnesty.
Yes,
what was the rush about? You could have waited another month, put in place all the guidelines, and then make the announcement. In fact, the statement would have directed people who want to take advantage of the amnesty on what steps to follow to do that. But you go ahead and announce the amnesty, and then you tell me that you're going to issue the guidelines as soon as possible?
Yes, exactly. But I think maybe what you need to also not forget is that we have been using these things before. So as we are developing these guidelines, we at the same time been using these the procedure that have been used even before. So what would happen in this particular case? You ask a very important question to say if somebody else were to say no, I have the this information, because I think, mind you, don't just forget about what we're saying. These are the conditions of the amnesty. What we're also saying is that it's not just only about coming with the money. Yeah. What we said is that this person should be a person that should not be within that list that was saying these people are not going to benefit. And then the thing is that this person, apart from just coming with the money, this person should say, okay, this is how this was done, this is how money was acquired, these are the people that were involved in this looting, this is the manner in which the looting was done, and this is where you can find the evidence, these are the documents, and then actually all this will be written down, actually a witness statement taken from him, and then afterwards, then perhaps then we'll say, okay, how do we go about it? Okay. And we know that we're not talking about these monies that have been looted, who owns this money? These monies are owned by the public, and what account do these people use? They are used account number one. So there's actually even systems in how monies are deposited in government account number one, and also systems in how the monies that have been illicitly acquired, because this is illicit acquisition of wealth.
Yes.
But then, of course, what we're also saying, because I think in this case, when you're asking about what about this person who comes with money, because I think we are talking about two things here. We are talking about recovery of the money that has been stolen, and this is how this is going to be dealt with under the Financial Crimes Act. And then we're also talking about...
Honorable Attorney General,
yes.
If you say this is something that has been done before, and you said you're going to issue guidelines as soon as possible, what are the guidelines for? If this has been happening before?
We're just going to actually refine the things, how these things have been done. Actually, by the way, we also have got some guidelines at the DPP's chambers on the process of pre-bargaining. Yeah? And we also have got some guidelines that are established by the law, Criminal Procedure and Evidence Court. And we also have got guidelines that are set out in court judgments. So what this is going to do is actually perhaps to consolidate all those guidelines, and because they are fragmented at this point in time, and put them in one single document. But what we are saying is that I think bottom line is that we have used this thing before.
All right. You seemed to suggest a certain figure that might be recouped through this, but I think it was 50 billion or something.
It could even be more.
It could be even more. Is there a particular process that was followed to arrive at this figure, or it was just plucked from?
Yeah, because we're also looking at the value of the offenses of the investigations. So if we are talking about, so if there is an investigation that is going on, and there's a value that is being mentioned, and if you're talking about a case that you're handling, there's always going to be a value.
Yeah, but
if you're talking about...
but my understanding was that we don't know the people who are going to come forward to confess of their illicit dealings. So we can't possibly know how much is out there.
And I think maybe at the moment what I said is one of the tools to be used in recouping this money. And one of the tools that we're saying we're going to use is this one, where one would voluntarily come forward. But there are other several tools that we're going to use.
But my point is, we don't know how much money is out there, right? Because we don't know who stole the money. We don't know them.
And I think
the ones that we know are the ones that you said cannot benefit from them.
You might also recall that we are talking about that money lost through this is 50% of the annual budget. Yeah. So now to say that we don't know how much money is, and when we know how much our annual budget is, and then I think it would be wrong to say...
Now let me present a practical scenario. Let's say I defrauded government of 10 billion kwacha in 2015. Obviously, I've been using that money. And now there's this amnesty. So what this means is that you expect me to come to you and confess that I stole this money in 2015. Obviously, you haven't been able to catch me because this is me now coming to tell you that I stole this money. So I'm coming to you and saying...
Genuinely, you're coming with remorse.
Yes, I'm saying I'm crying and everything, and I'm saying, oh, I stole this 10 billion in 2015.
And then we prove ascertain that what you're saying is genuine.
Okay, so now, what stops me from coming with tears and all the drama with 1 billion kwacha and saying, oh, I stole this 1 billion kwacha in 2015. And
I think the mistake that we're making is that you're only concentrating on the money. And then you are ignoring, you are only ignoring that these factors. Because what we said is, we want that person to give us evidence. The evidence that would lead us to catch other people. No, so it's not just about money, because what is going to happen is that before that happens,
I don't want to get want to get distracted. Remember, I'm presenting a practical scenario here. So you are disturbing because I've come to your office crying. I've got money that I want to give back. And I'm under declaring. How will you know that? No, Mr. Chakhaza, it's not 1 billion you took, it's 10 billion.
I think the answer will lie in the answer that I was giving, which you cut me short. Because what I'm saying is that we only not looking at the money that we have brought. What we're also going to do is we look at the information that are brought to us. So we'll assess that information.
Yeah, I mean, if I was dealing with 10 other government officials, I can pick 1 or 2 and say, this is the messenger that helped me get this money. And that will justify, because I will have declared a small amount of money and it will make sense. So my point is, we can never be sure.
So now you're talking about a practical scenario here.
Yes.
But what you are trying to give me is a hypothesis. So I think maybe
it's something that could happen.
Yeah, because you were saying a practical scenario.
Yes.
But you are giving me an assumption.
Yes.
And the answer that you want to get is a practical answer. But then the thing is that maybe ask a practical question, and then let's deal with that in a practical manner.
No.
Because what I'm saying in a practical scenario
yes.
is a scenario where not that fantasies, where one would come with 1 billion kwacha and say, oh, crying and lying. We're not talking about fantasies. We're talking about serious business here. Yes. So let's come with a practical scenario where what we're saying is that we want evidence. Yeah. In addition to the evidence, then we want the money.
How would you deal with a case where somebody is under declaring what they possibly swindled from government, what they stole from government?
We don't accept that statement from face value because that has to be verified. So that's why I'm saying.
How would you verify? How would you verify that? Because you said this is dating back to 17 years ago or something. You gave an
2003.
Yes. So if this happened in 2004, which is like many years ago, how would you go ahead and try to investigate and say, no, actually you are under declaring? I just want to understand.
Don't underrate us, because I think maybe this time around, when you're trying to say, and then maybe you are going to a barracks and say, okay, what weapons do you have in public? I don't think you'll get the answer to say, what weapons do you have for you to defeat an enemy if you have to be invaded? So we have got enough skills and we have got enough information. Actually, that will be used to verify that information. To cross-check that information. There are people that will do that. So as regards to say what type of actual strategies are you going to use, what I would say that enough strategies. But then let's come up with not fantasies, not hypotheses, not assumptions. But if we are coming up with a hypothesis, it should be a hypothesis that should not be considered as a fantasy.
The reason people are a little bit hesitant to agree with your reasoning on this one is that it would work better if we went ahead and investigated, and then when we have the evidence, then we can try to reach that arrangement with the person, because then we have got, let's say, a figure that we're working with. We've got this proof.
I get you.
But
I don't know.
To expect that someone will just come.
Earlier on, I gave you an example. We are 5 of us here now. Yeah. So the 5 of us, nobody is willing to come forward with evidence. And then the courts, mind you, the courts would not just look at Mr. Joab Chakhaza. He hosts Cruise 5, and therefore, because Joab Chakhaza has brought this case, they will convict. The court will look at the evidence. The court doesn't convict based on just an allegation or just suspicion. The court will require hard evidence. They operate independently of any other influence. So what we're saying is, doing investigations, if the investigations hit a snag, then you just stop. We cannot offer amnesty. We cannot actually require somebody else to come forward voluntarily to give us evidence. Then in the end, you're not going to convict anyone. But then, of course, when you're arresting somebody else, you arrest based on evidence. So where do we get evidence? How do you get that evidence? You get that evidence by those tools, those means. Because there are so many people that will just suspect, this person has got these monies. His income is only 1 billion kwash. 1 million kwash. But there's no way he can acquire. You can just suspect, but you don't have evidence. Yeah? Or you just suspect. But those suspicions, no matter how strong they may be, cannot be used to convict somebody else. You need somebody else to come forward. So if you are saying, investigate, and then you can't get that evidence, how do you investigate? So
as we are speaking, the amnesty is in effect. I don't know if there have been any people who have come forward to, have you received any reports?
No. There's been nobody that has come forward with any offer of evidence and right.
And let's say that situation prevails up to day number 60.
Yeah.
What will happen after that?
The 60 days, only 60 days. So then you're out.
After the 60 days, what happens after that?
This is only for 60 days. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 60 days means 60 days.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you come after 60 days, then you cannot benefit from that.
Okay.
Because now we say, we give you 60 days, you're not genuinely coming here, you're not even showing remorse and like. So those that are genuine, they will come with genuine repentance, and like they're the ones that would come at any stage.
But considering you said you were still going to release the guidelines, I might have to wait until you release those guidelines.
But I also mentioned, I think those guidelines are in terms of how we operate in ourselves. But those guidelines are in terms of if somebody comes forward, because in the case of the person that will go to complain to the police, we complain to the police. Do you have guidelines on how you complain to the police? Do you? Do you have guidelines where maybe you also I say, okay, but before you go into court, these are the guidelines. Are you aware of those guidelines? You just go there. So these are the guidelines that we're talking about. These are internal guidelines that are going to be used actually to achieve some predictability. But I would say, of course, we must also consider that this type of forgiveness have been used before. And actually, what I'll also give an example, in Angola, it had happened. In Germany, even when Angela Merkel was chancellor.
Not without any protests. Because, I mean, what I understand...
so what kind of protests were there in Angola? If you were meant to tell me, what kind of protests happened in... I know, those people that are protesting, they mean well for the country. You know? So we understand. And when you are also protesting, you mean well for the country. So what we are saying that this is not the first time that... I told you that Germany corrected billions of euros through this system. Yeah? Angola, for example, also did quite a lot.
Well, I don't think Germany would have recouped as much money if they approached it the way Malawi has approached it, honestly. I don't think Germany would go ahead to announce an amnesty before they have worked out all these details. So we can't just isolate that and say, they did this.
Those are the kind of the situation, because what I'm saying is that there are people that are actually benefiting from such kind of arrangement. Actually, they have been benefiting for a long time, and they don't have those details.
Can you assure us that there's a good working relationship between your office, that of the DPP, and that of the ACP? Can you assure us?
I assure you 100% that there's that very good working relationship between these offices. And not only these three offices I've mentioned, but there are also agencies that we have got good working relationship in as far as the fight against financial crime is concerned.
You are quoted as saying, we must always do the right thing, no matter what it takes. As a country, we have a duty to ensure that we safeguard public funds from plunder. As a government, everything we do must be done with the people at the center of it, because we serve the people. Do you still stand by these words?
Even if you take me, you take me to the cross, even if you point a gun at me, even if you point a knife at me, I will not retract that statement. So even if when it says that no, you either die or you retract that statement, I will not retract that statement.
We have to end it there. That's my interaction with Thabo Chakaka Nyirenda, the Attorney General of the Republic of Malawi, talking about the 60-day amnesty that the Office of the Attorney General has issued to people who defrauded or helped defrauding the government of Malawi. My name is Joab Frank Chakhaza. Until next time, it's goodbye.